Justin, what's the feeling coming in after such a good win last week?
Well, it's a derby, so we need to give our best. Been saying this for a number of weeks. It's okay to enjoy the win on the weekend. Hard to come by, especially against the best team in the comp. So we enjoyed it, but it's going to be a moment where you move on and give your best to the next week and feel like we've done that. But it's going to be a good test of our maturity tomorrow.
One of your biggest challenges all year has been you play really well against the good teams, and if the teams are lower than you on the ladder, you've struggled to play your best. What have you done to address that coming at this stage?
Nothing specifically around that. It's been more about our process, and I don't think necessarily it's about. It's probably more about putting too much pressure on ourselves rather than taking things lightly. I think we can always jump at the conclusion that you took that opposition lightly and you're punched in the face, but I don't think it's been that. I think it's been probably put too much pressure on the winnable games. So we don't need to build ourselves up anymore. We just need to make sure we go through our normal process. Treat every opposition at their best and put your best foot forward. So we got the win last week, but we didn't play the game the way we would like to play. And we still conceded a lot of inside 50s. We did a good job to hold up under those inside 50s, but there's a lot of our game that needs improving if we're going to compete back end of the season. So it's follow the process and try and improve our footy week in, week out.
Andrew, does that concern you that they got a win over Collingwood at the MCG and still weren't quite playing their best?
Yeah, I think you can look at it both ways. Like, it was credit to Freo for winning, but there's some vulnerability in our eyes to the way that game looked. And I think Justin sort of said it himself. The Pies were taking the way that game looked for a long period of that, but ultimately they got the job done. So you can look at it both ways, I think.
Andrew, you are massive underdogs heading into this game. Do you guys embrace that tack?
Absolutely, we do. That's no surprise. I'm not sure the last time team that was $1.03 lost, but that's the beauty of this game. We're a young, developing team. We didn't play our best footy last week, and these guys have been in really good form for a large chunk of the back end of this season. So it's a great challenge. We're embracing that and can't wait.
You spoke about last week just then. You've only made the 2 changes at the selection table. Could you run through the reasoning behind that? Is that backing in the young group?
Look, a little bit of that. I think ultimately you look at last week's game, 3 of the quarters were okay. 1 quarter was really poor. We got 8 goals, 3 kicked against us in the 3rd quarter. And the Waffle didn't have a game last week, which is sometimes good for the Waffle players and sometimes not great. So, there's some things from our players that we're seeing some development, but we need some more consistency, clearly.
Can you train that consistency, but how do you address that at training?
Of course you can. You just train the same way, whether it's your offensive style or your defensive style or your contest. You just train the same thing over and over. You get really clear on what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to do. You educate, and you can improve consistency all the time.
Justin, you touched on that earlier about not putting too much pressure on the winnable games. How do you go about that, helping the players have that mindset of not putting too much pressure?
Well, we talk through these situations. Yeah, talk through how your expectations going into a game can expect how you react in games. And just get back to making it really clear of what makes us a good team, and just keep sticking to that. The result will look after itself. Yeah, and in the end, like the last 10 weeks, been talking about playing a brand of footy that you can sit in the locker room after the game and look at your mate and be happy about. And that's not necessarily taking into consideration the scoreboard, whether you win, lose or draw. It's about making sure you execute a brand together for 120 minutes. And the same thing applies tomorrow.
It looks like the percentage is going to be crucial in the final ladder positions.
I tell you what, we have not talked about that. That would be disrespectful. And you get caught up in talking about percentage, and that's we haven't gone there at all this week. Yep. So don't even ask the question.
How do you handle Hayden Young this week after so good on limited games? How much? What's realistic? What minutes you can get into him? And how?
I'm not going to talk about minutes, but yeah, he'll come into the team and he'll build. he'll play the same similar role to what he did back end of last year for us, and we'll continue to build his minutes and footy over the next few weeks. But when I say build, you'll probably just have an extra rotation and a half. He's ready to go. He's done a mountain of work. We considered playing him full game last week. We probably thought best opportunity was the sub. Worked out pretty well, but he's ready for whatever we throw at him tomorrow.
Given the roles Corey Wagner's had this year, how big of a loss is it?
It is. He's added a different dynamic to the midfield, whether it's been on ball or on the wing. He provides a level of flexibility because you can play multiple roles and you can hit tags at times, and gives us great flexibility. So he's going to be missed.
Will it be a longer?
No, we're expecting maybe 1 week. He's got a bruised heel, so it just keeps on pulling up a little bit sore. So 1 or 2 weeks.
From a chemistry perspective, you bring blokes in now, which is a good thing to have, but at this time of year you're also trying to build momentum towards the final. Like how are you handling getting the chemistry right for everyone?
Well, time will tell. He was saying before, you got to train it. Youngie's done a lot of training with our mids. He's played as a midfielder for a year and pretty much a full season last year and the back end of the year before. So that chemistry's there. But it is a hard game to come into. Doesn't matter how long you've had off. So we expect there to be a little bit of rust there with Youngie and a few of the other guys that are making returns. But we'll get them going.
Andrew, your midfield has been quite young recently. You're taking a very good one in Fremantle. How do you plan for that contest and to try and at least even up at best?
Yeah, so we appreciate it's one of Freo's greatest strengths, their midfield. But we love the challenge of that. And our young midfield actually loves the challenge of that. We're in this space of every week we come against good midfield, so it's AFL football, and we're a young midfield that gets great experiences every week. We learn what other mids do. I sort of spoke about it, how many games our midfielders have played, but even in saying that, we've probably had a little bit of continuity of our midfield this year. These guys have played, a dozen games together for, I know it doesn't sound like much, but it's more than we had. So we're starting to understand each other a bit more, and it's a great challenge and experience, and we'll face it head on.
With the ruck situation, you brought in Archer Reid. I know he's played previously as a forward ruck. You got Bailey Williams there as well. Which one of them do you look to maybe run through in that win against Luke and Shaw?
Yeah, look, it'll be Bailey Williams. We appreciate Archer can play it as well. But Bailey's a really good ruckman who's improving his game as a forward. And Archer's, when he was playing earlier in the season, he's super competitive. For a young man, he goes about his football the right way. We really value the way he trains and competes, and we're rapt to have him back on our side.
So that leaves you with two very young, tall forwards in Jobe and Archer.
I would love to have Jake Waterman and Oscar Allen, but unfortunately they're not available.
How exciting is that though because they're both very talented players.
Yeah, they are, and it's a huge challenge. Key forwards, not that I played it, but I'm assuming it's one of the most difficult positions on the ground. We've got two seriously young players, but we think there's enormous upside with the way they go about their football, and not too dissimilar to what I spoke about with the midfield before. They get great experience and work together. I think it's the first time they've played in the forward line together. When Jobe was playing Waffle, Jobe was playing down back. So there might be some chemistry that will take a bit of time, but it's exciting for our fans.
And then this is your second derby now. What did you learn from the first one, and how do you approach the second one?
Yeah, look, I think I said at last press conference, it's something I'd never experienced, a derby in my whole football career, and it's different. It's like a finals game. And for our team at the moment, we're obviously not going to get the chance to do that this year. So we appreciate being involved in games like this and can't wait for that experience. I think the whole state gets behind it. It's unique. There's certainly a different feel to it. We had a former ex-champion of our club sitting in our team meeting this morning, and just by chance, David Wirrapunda sat in there, which was great for him and us to share some experience there. So that was there's some history to this game, which we all appreciate.
And what sort of stories did he share?
Look, we didn't ask him to speak, but he just sat in and spoke to the players out of the meeting, and we just appreciate the history of the game.
Did you drag anyone in?
No, not this week. Me, Dustin Neal.
Andrew, just how's Owen going? Obviously, we saw him with Pop carried on yesterday at training.
Yeah, so unfortunate injury at training for Bo yesterday. Just got caught in a tackle. These things can happen. Still gathering a little bit of the information, but he's certainly not going to play football this weekend. And then we'll work out whether you know, it's a long-term injury or what it is. But it's unfortunate for the young fella. He's had a pretty tougher year this year. He's had a couple of different injuries and lacked a bit of continuity, so it's a bit of a shame.
With a young guy like him, how much do you have to speak to him about? It's not just 1 year in your career, you've got hopefully a decade or more in this game.
Yeah, that's the exact conversation I've had with him a couple of times. Bo, like many young players, just are in a rush, and it's a great trait. We want players to be in a rush, but there's also the experience of, like, I talked to Jamie Cripps in his first 2 years at St Kilda, and it was pretty hard for him to break into the team. It's turned out he's had a pretty good career, so I appreciate that young players are in a rush, but Bo will be a good player for us for a very long time.
JL, how wary are you of Harley Reid, not only his form recently, but what he did to you guys last year?
Yeah, he's a good player. He's one of the most exciting, promising young players in the comp. So he's had to, as Minnie said, he's had to carry a fair load. He's built his year. I think his last month has probably been his strongest. So yeah, we're well aware of the threat he poses.
You saw in the first half last week, 20 disposals, 6 clearances, and then the tag came on and really limited his influence. How much do you look at that and think?
We need some plans in place, like we do every week with the opposition's best players. And he's not the only player we've got plans in place for. Like, we're not strolling into this one thinking we don't have to worry about the opposition. We've got plans in place, with numerous players across the ground, whether that's from the start or if they get on top. So, Harley is one of those.
How do you approach your decision around tagging? Sometimes you have, sometimes you haven't. You let Nick Dacos go last week.
Well, we weren't supposed to.
You haven't got Corey Wagner, who's your main guy. So how do you, philosophically, what's your thoughts going into a game?
It's horses for courses. Like, the tag doesn't work every week. And sometimes you tag and it just adds confusion because a certain player who you're tagging can go to other spots and ends up pulling your stoppage apart or pulling rolls apart. So we weigh all that up. I'm not going to tell you what we do tomorrow, but
If you want.
it is a decision that every team goes to. And I think maybe 1 or 2 teams tag every week, but most of them just have it up in their back pocket to call upon.
And what about training someone up for that job, given Corey so good at it? Is there someone...
There's other players in our team that have done it across the course of the year and across the course of their careers. So I feel like we've got the flexibility there.
Andrew, is that something you're considering on Caleb?
It's funny, as Joe was just talking, I could have said the exact same words that was coming out of his mouth. So I think every team would have plans in place for best players in the competition and then have contingency plans in place. So exactly the same as what Joe just said.
You can give him a bit more away.
Bringing Elijah's back this week, minor calf last week. Was he close to playing against Richmond?
He didn't have a minor calf last week. No, he wasn't injured at all. We just thought he's a young man that hasn't played a lot of football, and he was on the edge. He was just physically and mentally tired, which young players are at this time of the year. So we made a safe decision to rest Elijah last week.
And he's better for the rest?
Yeah, he's great. He was not happy with the decision last week, but jumping out of his skin, if you know Elijah, he's full of beans. So, I'm excited to see the version we get of Elijah this week.
So, Minnie, the 3-pronged attack that we have, how daunting is that, and how do you go about trying to handle that?
Yeah, they're in serious form at the moment. They're efficient, and I think that's what has really stood out probably the last month with Fremantle's game is their efficiency in the forward half. They've got multiple ways to score, which is what good teams require. We appreciate that, and we've got our matchup sorted, and there'll be some flexibility needed at times, and so we've got some young players in our back line as well, which would be a great challenge for.
JL, how hard has it been trying to control Bus this week after his 6th time?
He's had chest out a little bit. He's matured, he moved on pretty quick. It's been a little bit different because he's probably had a bit more publicity and recognition, and probably walks around with people recognising him a little bit more. But he's put that behind him and wants to go again, and that's what it takes. You can't I talk as a team a lot about not dwelling on the previous win or loss and moving on. But the team doing that is the makeup of all the players doing that and all the staff doing that. So Fossey's handled it well. He's ready for the next challenge.
Andrew, how has Harley handled this week, given the big media attention in Australia around his contract in the future?
To be fair, Harley gets media attention every day of his last 4 years of his life. So he's exactly the same. He's no different, Harles. He goes about his business the right way, the same way. He's building a real consistency to the way he approaches everything, and this week's been no different.
I know you're not involved with the contract stuff, but does it excite you a little bit to hear that he might be staying around for a lot longer if potentially things go your way?
Yeah, like I'd love Harley to stay. He's a terrific player, terrific person, and as his footy coach, I absolutely want him to stay. But my job every day is to make Harley as good as he can be and make him a great teammate, which is something that he's been focused really hard at.
He will get a lot of attention from the Fremantle fans, undoubtedly, every time he touches the footy. How does he go about that as a young man? How do you see him do? Will he embrace that? Will that fire him up? How do you kind of see that laying on his mind?
Yeah, I think both. Like I think he certainly embraces it. It's a lot for a young man to have that attention, but he seems to cope with it pretty well, and he's getting better. And every week, I think that maturity last week when you might have seen he got thrown into a security guard, and he just went and gave a fist bump to the security guard after it and moved on, which was pleasing to see.
Just in terms of modern day contracts, what's it like for you? I mean, you have to fight and scrap for your career now. People are talking about 20 million over 10.
My 45,000 at the Gold Coast is not quite the same. I agree. Yeah.
But what's it like? I guess do you see that as a good thing that players are getting more reward for? Physically, they put a lot on the line and things like that.
Yeah, I think the game is a hell of a spectacle, and I think the whole game's growing, and it's just where it's trending. So I think it's the players are paid what they should be paid, and they put on a great show.
That player getting at his age, like getting potentially the largest contract in history, put a lot of. It's a burden that comes with that as a player as well. Like, how do you handle the expectation that is on him to meet that contract when you're trying to coach him at the same time?
Yeah, so for me, I'd take the contract out of it because I think it's irrelevant. It's when you're one of the best players in the competition, there's a burden that comes with it, and that's it for anyone. So that's just real. That's what comes with being a great player in our competition, and it's the skill of being able to cope with that. So we train that from a mental perspective. It's challenging, but the best players embrace it and they go about their business, which I'm sure Harley will be one of those.
Justin, we've seen teams try and get under his skin a little bit, not overly physical, but just, getting a few bumps and that. Do you expect your guys to pay a bit of attention to him in that way?
Well, we want to play a physical brand. I don't see Harley getting bothered by that sort of stuff or shirking any of that. I think he gives as good as he gets. So I expect that to happen tomorrow.
Do you get a bit excited about the prospect of Canis or Harley Reid going head-to-head as well at times? I know it's hard because you want to win, but it's a pretty cool spectacle from a football perspective.
Yeah. When there's no roles going on, sometimes you'll see that. Sometimes you'll see Youngie on him. Sometimes you'll see Andy on him, and you see Tim Kelly on others. Yeah, I don't tend to get caught up too much in that. Probably look at it a bit more bigger picture, and Farley's doing a decent job. We'll pull some of the levers we need to be able to quell his influence because we've seen what he can do when he's dominant. So I don't necessarily get caught up in that sort of spectacle.